the family of the late Tob Cohen, through his lawyers, Sister Gabriela, instructed myself, Mr. Cliff Ombetta, a battle of all these lawyers, to file a petition for the removal of the Director of Public Prosecution, one Mr. Noordin Haji. We have filed a petition. It has been received pursuant to the provisions of the Kenyan law by the Public Service Commission. They have stamped. We have a copy to confirm that the petition is duly filed. The grounds why the family wants the Director of Public Prosecution, one Mr. Noordin Haji, vacate office is as follows. One, the Director of Public Prosecution, one Mr. Noordin Haji, stopped the prosecution of one Justice Ole Kantai, who is a prime suspect in the murder of the late Tob Cohen, who is our client. In a letter he has written to stop the police, he has instructed the Director of Criminal Investigation, one Mr. George Kinoti, never again, the file is closed, and there should be no further police action. So that if today Cliff finds the real murderer of Tob Cohen, the police cannot move an inch, which is very unconstitutional. The Director of Public Prosecution has no powers known under Article 157 of the Constitution to close a police file. He can only advise the Inspector General of Police to close a police file. Number two, we have raised very serious issues about Tob Cohen. One being that the same investigation report, the same forensic report that the Director of Public Prosecution used to charge one Sarah Wairimu and one Karanja is the same that pinned down one Justice Ole Kantai. That double speak is a serious affront to the rule of law and to the position of the Director of Public Prosecution. Other than that, we have also raised very serious issues in the manner the Director of Public Prosecution now is saying he wants private investigators, foreign investigators, to investigate this matter. Nowhere in Article 159 or in the Article 157 or within the DPP's Act does he have the mandate to look for foreign investigators. Why have Kenyans asking millions and billions of money have been used to train our DCIs? Why are we going to foreigners? Why has he charged Sarah Wairimu? Why has he charged one Karanja? And yet he's saying the Director of Criminal Investigation, one George Kinoti, is incompetent. Does Kinoti, does the DCI become incompetent only in a matter of Justice Ole Kantai, but in all matters, thousands and thousands of files of the Criminal Investigation Department that are proceeding in this country? Why will George Kinoti, the Director of Criminal Investigation, only be incompetent on this matter? We have also raised very serious issues on the competence and qualification of the Director of Public Prosecution. And we have attached a copy of YouTube when he was being interviewed as the Director of Public Prosecution in Parliament. The Director of Public Prosecution, one Mr. Noordin Haji, does not disclose. He does not disclose which secondary school he went, which university he went, which law school he went, which law firm he did for pupillage. So we are asking, do we have really a competent Director of Public Prosecution handling this matter? We have also raised other matters to show the incompetence of the Director of Public Prosecution. Several files, thousands of files, are lying at the Director of Public Prosecution unattended. Among the files is the files of KEMSA. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, gave timelines for KEMSA files to be concluded, and the perpetrators of heinous genocide called COVID that has killed thousands of Kenyans, that has caused a lot of misery to Kenyans. To date, they are walking free. It is musical chairs between the DPP and the EACC. Kenyans should understand, but in Cohen's petition, we think the Director of Public Prosecution has an agenda. He has turned his office into a parking bay where all files that have been investigated by the DCI have been lying there, some 5 years, some 2 years, some 3 years. No action has ever been done. In a report, a serious indictment by the government of Kenya, in a ministerial report that we have annexed there, signed by the Minister for Interior and a research done, it is expressly stated that the weakest link in the war against corruption is the Director of Public Prosecution. It is not the judiciary. Thousands of files are lying there. No action has ever been done. Let me give you a chronology of some of the files that are lying, that the DPP has done what no first-year student of law at Catholic University will do. In the case of direct line, the Director of Criminal Investigation provides evidence to charge people who have failed to comply with a statutory requirement of a new law dealing with insurance companies. It is an offense, a statutory offense. The directors and shareholders should not have more than 25% of the shareholding. The lawyer for one of the accused people writes a letter to the Director of Public Prosecution and informs the Director of Public Prosecution that this matter is lying before a civil court. Out of that notice, contrary to Article 157 that says the Director of Public Prosecution cannot be directed by anybody, the Director of Public Prosecution writes a letter terminating the prosecution, charging the directors of direct line. The Director of Public Prosecution cannot really prove to be competent if he doesn't know that Section 193A, Mr. Cliff Ombetta will deal with it, provides that a matter criminal can proceed and a civil matter of the same nature will proceed without each other being terminated. Is this the person that Kenyans have entrusted this position to be the Director of Public Prosecution? Really, that is the question among the other issues we have raised. We have provided a litany of cases, one after another, blow by blow, where the Director of Public Prosecution approves a charge sheet. At the same time, again writes another letter saying he has stopped the DCI from proceeding with the matter. The Director of Public Prosecution has ordered the investigation of one very senior police officer, Mr. Gashomo, who swore an affidavit. And in that affidavit, the DCI has provided graphically the plotting, the execution, the mens rea, the forgery of a company by a company of the late Silas Itak, the shares of Tob Cohen. Yet, instead of the DPP agreeing, he now says the DCI, one Assistant Inspector General of Police, Mr. Gashomo, be investigated and be charged, be arrested. If the DPP is calling for the arrest of very senior DCIs, is this country going to succeed in the fight against corruption? The time has come when citizens should stand up and say, this cannot proceed. The DPP cannot order an arrest. A decision by Justice Nyakundi yesterday from Malindi is very clear. He does not have arresting powers, but he has ordered the Inspector General to arrest. He is intimidating the investigating arm of this country. Remember the case of the DCJ Mwilu? We have raised the question. That was a landmark decision where the DCI acted, arrested the Deputy Chief Justice, arraigned him in court. The DPP could not come in court himself to argue this matter. Who does he send? He hires a foreign prosecutor at a Queen's Counsel. When we have more than 18,000 advocates on the payroll of LSK. If the DPP still cannot prosecute himself, I don't know whether Hassan Mugambi, you've never seen him on anywhere arguing his cases. Comparatively, Cohen and the family has raised this issue. We have provided a litany of people who have held that office, from Chunga, from Unita Kidula, from Tobago. They were litigators. They could lead their battles. They could lead their soldiers in court. The DPP has never been in any court. He has failed to even prosecute a simple matter. He's now saying, get foreign investigators. Is he calling for the disbandment of the DCI? Is he saying all investigations conducted by the DCI are suspect, so that we move to court to terminate as advocates every matter, because he's calling the office of the Director of Criminal Investigations totally incompetent? So in a nutshell, we have raised very fundamental grounds, and we believe the petition will be acted upon very fast, so that the President of the Republic of Kenya is served with that petition for Mr. Noordin Haji to resign or to step aside as this matter progresses. Mr. Cliff.
The moment you realize that you have a DPP that is blowing hot and cold, and you realize that the DPP does not want to take action in matters, when you realize that he's leaning on other sides, when you realize that he's a person who favors people, when you realize that he has got cold feet in other matters, and you realize he becomes hyper when he's only on national television, then you realize you have a problem. Once you realize that you have this problem, then what do? You don't keep quiet. You must take action. The president has not taken action, probably because he has not realized this. But then lawyers then must come. And this is why we are here today. We are not going to keep quiet about it. When we have a case whereby evidence is so clear, and then the DPP pretends to be an ostrich and puts his head in the sand, then you begin realizing again, we also need to take action. When you have a neighbor who jumps over your wall, comes into your compound, and puts off light in your house and goes back to his house, then you realize you have a problem. Why am I saying this? The DPP tells the Director of Criminal Investigation not to investigate a matter. You close the file. But on one hand, what does he do? He comes out and he says that he has been given instructions on which other areas to be covered. When you look at those two letters, you realize there is a problem. If you do not want a matter to proceed, you do not go into another person's house and put off the lights. So therefore, you do not go to the DCI's office and tell him you cannot proceed with this matter anymore. Investigations are ongoing. Then when you want this matter stopped, isn't it because you have an interest? Why aren't you encouraging investigations to go on? This is a problem that we have been having with the DPP. I'll give you an example. He goes to Italy to record issue cases of the dam cases. What does he do? He records statements himself. We have that on record. Have you ever had a DPP leaving his office to join the police force to do an investigation. The mandate for who investigates matters in this country, we know who it belongs to. So when he goes to record the statements, it brings the case into some kind of a risk. What if the person you want to record the statement from is a person who is intending to confess? What do? We know the rules of confession. You can only confess before a magistrate or a police officer. Is he any of the two? No. He puts the situation in a compromised position. So today, the DPP needs to understand that he has no mandate to interfere with an independent office of the police. You cannot direct them to do anything. You can only request that they cover angles. When the DCI says that this is what he has covered, you can only say probably there are other areas that need to be covered, but you cannot tell him to go and do it. The DCI knows what he's supposed to do. Let us talk about investigations. Who does investigations? Do we have an office that does that? Yes. Is it competent? Yes. Has it brought cases to court? Yes. When you now say that you want to go and bring foreigners, what are you saying about this country? What are you doing about it? When you say that the DCI is unqualified, you have now moved away from your aim and you have become personal. When you say he's unqualified, incompetent, and does not understand the law, it has become a personal law. But then the question is, does the DPP understand investigations? Has he ever done any? Has he ever become a police officer? Millions have been spent on our forensic labs that we have nowadays, on things to do with the DNA, handwritings, and very many other things. This has been used in the Tob Cohen case. This is what brought out the results that we are having in that case today. Who is he then to come out and say that he's going to get other investigators? To do what? To start from where? Where was the failure of the DPP? At the same time, he writes a letter to the lawyers of Kantai, Justice Kantai, and says this matter is still under investigation. On the same day, same date, he writes a letter to DCI and says this matter is terminated. You cannot investigate further. Does he work for the persons who are intended to be charged? Do we forget the victims in these cases? Are the victims not important in these matters? Haven't they got a constitutional right to be informed of what is going on and all that? He ignores them. Why? Does he despise them? Anyway, very many files, and this has started as a gradual thing. The DPP sitting on files for one day, then slowly it goes to 2 days, it has gone to months. We have files that the DPP is supposed to give advice until 5 years later. He has not done so. We have got files for 4 years, for 3 years, and all that. Is it because he cannot be able to do anything? Is it because he's reluctant? Is it because perhaps he does not have staff that is competent? They admitted by themselves that sometimes they have incompetent staff and they have not picked up the staff that is capable of doing these cases. They admitted openly and apologized. Why? Because the judges raised issues about the ability of the DPP to even conduct matters, losing cases that they could easily win. How then can we have such a person in office today? Isn't it our duty then to make noise about it? Isn't it the duty of the president to take a step back and re-examine the nature of this person? The office might be there, but the person holding that office today is a person that needs to be looked into very clearly. Issues have been raised about whether he had anything and all that, but you see, to be a director of public prosecution, some of the qualifications needed that you have the qualifications of a judge. Please tell us, what do we know about the DPP currently? What do we know about his qualifications? If he has them, what kind of experience does he have? Does he have an experience of a person who's supposed to be a judge? Those are questions to be answered. Now, right now, there are about 60% of the files that have been sent to the by the DCI to him to make conclusions and to give directions. He has given nothing. 60% of the files. They are increasing day by day. If we have this person in office tomorrow, the files keep on increasing. Is it because he has decided that he's going to have a personal war with the director of criminal investigation? Or is it because of competence? Or is it the lack of the willpower? Any of the three, pick them at random. Pick them at random. Still make him look bad. We need confidence in that office. If we do not have confidence in that office, then the public has been failed. If we do not have confidence in that office, then you'll realize that nothing will ever go on. The one corruption will not be fought. The judicial system will collapse. Today, if he has that heart, if he can take his own hand and touch his heart, he will realize that he's not beating properly. He will realize it is time for him to step down. He will realize he has messed the system and he should not have been there in the first place. Today, on a DPP, please go. This is what we're asking you. Very humble.